Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome. Today is Sunday, January 15th, 2023. This is the first class of this new year, 2023. We've been on hiatus for a couple of weeks for holidays and travel and things like that, but you are here. Welcome. I have a feeling there's new people here because lots of people have New Year's resolutions to finally do this class or finally meditate or whatever it is. So if you're new, welcome. We're going to kind of start a bit of a reset and do a review of the basic meditation technique. And then Victoria is going to speak a bit on her topic of choice today, and then we'll take some questions. We will end a little bit early. Usually the class goes till like 11:15 or so. We're going to end right at 11 today. So just know that. But we'll leave some time for questions. First, the first part of class, we always do this. For those of you who are new, Buddhist practice always comes in three components. The first is setting your motivation or intention. The second is the practice itself, whatever that may be. And the third is dedicating the merit for the benefit of all beings. Whatever merit is generated by the practice, we dedicate. We'll do that at the end. But the first part is setting our intentions, making aspirations, and these intentions and aspirations are not just for us and our benefit, but really more importantly for the benefit of all beings. So we say the four immeasurables prayer. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings not be separated from the happiness that has never known suffering. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment, anger, and aversion. And those of you who are new, this class originally started as a secular meditation class, just was, sitting meditation practice. And because of the interest of the students, we began to incorporate some topics of Buddhism. And that's what you'll hear today. But the first part of the class, what we just did, that setting intentions, making aspirations of altruistic intent, is very much in line with the view of Buddhism, which is very much about interdependence, interconnectedness, non-duality being the true state of things and the true, ultimate nature of reality, ultimate truth, things like that, which is a very vast, complex subject that we touch upon at times, but for now we're going to practice meditation. We'll do a short meditation. And in this class, before we actually do the sitting practice of meditation, we do something called the 9 purifying breaths. We're going to go through the basic posture that we work with in class. So we do sitting meditation. You can sit on the floor. If you're sitting on the floor, often it helps to use a cushion. The point being, you're getting your hips either in line or above your knees. You could sit cross-legged. If you're flexible and do a half lotus, you can do that, which is one leg up top, one foot on top of the leg, that kind of thing. If you can't sit on the floor and you need a chair, you can use a chair. But if you use a chair, it is important to have your feet on the floor, to have your back straight, and also it helps to have your hips, again, aligned, either in line or above your knees, so you're not in a reclined position. So you're sitting in this pose, your back is straight, but it's not rigid, it's not erect, your shoulders are not back like kind of like a militaristic attention thing. The key here is having a alert, straight, but relaxed pose. And they often use the metaphor of a guitar string. So when a guitar string is too tight, it doesn't make, and when it's too loose, it doesn't make a sound. When it has just enough tension in it, then you get the tone. It's the same thing with the body in meditation pose. We're not doing this really straight, erect, stiff thing, but we're not doing this slouched kind of reclined thing. So and it may take a bit for you to find the ease in that position. But that's what we're going for. So the back is straight. The head is tilted slightly down, not all the way down, not straight up. So your chin is kind of slightly tilted. So it's comfortable. The mouth, what we do in this class is breathe through the nose, unless you can't because you're having sinus problems or something like that and you need to breathe through your mouth, that's okay. But what we like to do here is the mouth is closed, but the teeth are apart. So there's not tension, the jaw is not clenched, even though the mouth is closed. That's important. And we're breathing through the nose. Hands, you can do the left hand, the palm open, the right hand, the back of the hand in the palm of the left, curved, thumbs touching in your lap. You can do your hands down, palms down on your knees. Some people do this kind of thing where they touch their thumb to ring finger, resting on the knees. The point is your arms are very relaxed and they're resting. The hands are resting, whatever pose they're in. You don't want tension. You don't want to be grabbing. You don't want to be pressing. Ease. The gaze, the eyes. In this class, we meditate with our eyes open. When you are looking straight ahead, you can focus on whatever you like, really. It should be something that's not going to be distracting and take your mind into a story or into an event or into the future or the past or something like that. So it could be the view out the window. It could be an image of a Buddha or a flower. It could be just the wall. You're not focused like a laser with intent, with lots of intention, and you're not spacing out of focus. It's kind of a light, restful gaze. So we're seated, we're relaxed, but we're upright, we're straight. We are breathing through our nose. Now, the basic practice, if you're really new, you should start with the breath. Feeling where the breath goes in and out of the nostrils. So the place between, the upper lip and the nose, focus your attention on that place. Feel the breath move in and out of that place, over, above, and below that place. Just focus your attention there for a few breaths. Stay relaxed. And if you need to shift, if you feel uncomfortable or too tense or something, you need to shift your position. It's okay. You don't have to stay completely locked, solid into this pose. That's okay to shift and adjust. Seated in the pose, you're relaxed. Your hands are relaxed. Your gaze is relaxed. You're breathing. And we don't do deep breaths. We don't do shallow breaths. You're doing just kind of a relaxed, easy, natural breath. If you feel you need a dose of oxygen, you can do a deeper breath, but it really should be more of a just relaxed. So you're not really aware of the action of it. You're just aware of the movement of this relaxed breath. Focus on that place between the nose and upper lip for a few breaths. What's going to happen is you're going to start to think, because that's what the mind does. This is not bad. This is not wrong. This doesn't mean you're making a mistake. This doesn't mean you're not doing it right. Any of that. Take away all those judgments and things like that, and just notice the fact that you're thinking. If you are thinking, when you catch yourself thinking, when your mind becomes aware that you're thinking, just go back to the breath. You can say that to yourself, back to the breath, which means you focus again on that place. You focus again on the movement of the air as it goes in and out through your nostrils. Once again, breathing, easy, relaxed. I'm thinking of something I have to do later. I'm aware of the fact that I'm thinking. Very important point. Back to the breath. Focus my attention again. This is the very, very basic technique, right? That we do here. The next technique uses a little more of your imagination, which is we imagine our mind, because what we're doing is working with our mind, seeing what our mind does, seeing its patterns, seeing how it works, seeing what arises, seeing what dissolves, seeing what's there. We're tuning into that. So when you're aware of the fact that you're thinking, you imagine your mind as this very spacious sky, clear, limitless blue sky. You can use that image as you sit in meditation too. You can use that as you settle in. You can use that as you breathe. You can imagine your mind as this very spacious, clear, stainless, limitless, infinite blue sky. Spacious and clear. And the thought, because thoughts arise within the mind, they don't exist anywhere else. And thoughts dissolve back into the mind and don't leave a trace. Now, thoughts may come back. You may have repetitive thoughts. You know, thoughts you think, things you're thinking about for a long time, years and years. But thoughts are impermanent. They arise and they do dissolve. We don't think about the same thing constantly 24/7. You know, our thoughts kind of follow almost like a train and an interlinked succession of thought that goes one to the other. And you'll see that as you meditate. You're going to start seeing how your thoughts just continue and one gives rise to the next. But we're kind of interrupting that pattern by becoming aware of thinking, aware of the thoughts. Again, so we're imagining our mind as this clear, limitless, stainless blue sky. Imagine the qualities of that kind of sky, which are calm, clear, quiet. And now I'm thinking about something I have to do at 1 o'clock, where I have to go, what train I have to take. Now, that's 3 thoughts already. What I have to do, where I have to go, what train I have to take. 3 thoughts that kind of gave rise almost at the same time, but they weren't. It was 1, 2, 3. One arose, gave way to the next, gave way to the next. That's the pattern of the mind. So I'm becoming aware because I've quieted my body and I'm quieting my mind by kind of slowing things down, focusing on the breath, imagining the mind, with this clarity. And that is the true nature of our mind. When we get away from the obscurations of these thought patterns, habitual patterns, and emotional patterns, the baseline is that clarity. In fact, when we started introducing Buddhist topics, we asked our teacher Garchen Rinpoche about what we should talk about, and he said, always focus on the mind, because Buddha is not the name of a man or a person. Buddha is the name of mind, because all sentient beings, all beings, their ultimate nature is Buddha, is enlightened, and it's just the obscurations of karma and habitual patterns and emotional patterns and behaviors that obscure us from realizing and existing completely from this Buddha nature. So that sky is not just a metaphor, that image of the sky, and it's not just a representation. It really is the essential nature of our mind. So know that as well. So now these thoughts that I said that have arisen about what I'm doing later, imagine them as a cloud that has arisen in that sky-like nature of mind. And then imagine that cloud dissolving back into the sky, as clouds do. And once they dissolve and are gone, they leave absolutely no trace. And then we connect again or relax again into that clarity, that sky-like nature of mind. That is really all we're doing here. So maybe it's good just to go right into this, and we'll do the 9 breaths next week. Since we're kind of right in the midst of this, we're going to do 9 minutes of this, and we'll start quiet, and I'll talk through it a little bit. Okay, here we go. So you're in your posture. Now just relax, focus on the breath. And those of you who've been doing this a while, you already are familiar with the techniques. Trust that sky-like nature of mind. Know that it's there. Try to taste that. Try to really experience it. And then the thought will come. The crux of the practice is becoming aware of the thoughts as they arise. And then apply the technique either back to the breath, aware of the place, aware of the movement of the breath between the nose and upper lip, or imagine that cloud, the thought as a cloud that has arisen in the sky-like nature of mind and dissolving back into that sky. It may take you a while to realize that you're thinking, and that's all okay. There's no right or wrong or failure or success here. This is the practice, period. Back to the breath. Whatever you're thinking is a cloud that just dissolves into the sky-like nature of your own mind. If you feel you need more air, take a deep breath. Really trust that spaciousness. Trust that it's there in your mind. Trust that it is spaciousness, your mind. And trust that it is calm and clear. Your thoughts may not be, but your mind is. Back to the breath. You may do lots of going back to the breath. You may become aware, every few seconds of thoughts and applying the technique of the visualization of the cloud in the sky or back to the breath. That's all okay. We're not qualifying, we're not ranking this, we're not judging this, like how long or how many thoughts or how little thoughts, how long we stay in the sky or anything like that. Just doing it. Just observing the mind, what the mind does. Okay, I'm going to stop for now. If you have any questions, there's a Q&A function on the Zoom, in the toolbar of the Zoom, and you can ask that, ask whatever question you like about the meditation or about anything we've been talking about. I am going to turn things over to Victoria. She's going to speak a little bit about mind and about whatever topic she's decided to today, and then we'll spend the last few minutes of the class going through the questions. And then we'll dedicate the merit to. I'll get into that in very brief detail when we get to it at the end. We do our dedication, but I'm going to turn things over to Victoria for the next few minutes, and then we'll take some questions at the end. Thank you.
Everyone, Happy New Year, and thank you for being there, joining us in our meditation group. I would like everyone to just please have a moment of silence with us, because a very dear friend just lost his daughter, who's 26 years old. A thing of impermanence we all have to think about all the time. So just for a moment, please. So I'd like to speak a little bit about the view in Buddhism today. We'll do a more fuller review of the view path and result next week, but just to understand why we do meditation, what meditation is, we really need to be informed by the view. Otherwise, it becomes another activity just to relax or just to chill or, get out of our usual tense zone. But meditation is much, much more than that. And Garchen Rinpoche said in the recent teaching that I was watching on YouTube, she said, in the simplest way, the word meditation, which in Tibetan means is gom, means to habituate, to become acquainted with. And what do we become acquainted with? That is our mind. We go into meditation, in order to observe our mind, to understand the nature of our mind, to understand really what we are, who we are. And this is what the view really speaks to in Buddhism. Also, I want to qualify one more thing, and that is just the word Buddha. We should think of the word Buddha as our teacher has instructed us. Do not think of Buddha as a historical man. There are many historical men who have become Buddhas, but the word Buddha really speaks to the blossomed, fully ripened, liberated state of mind. So when we become ripened and liberated, naturally, our mind will become a Buddha. We will become a Buddha. Our body, speech, and mind will be transmuted into state of Buddhahood. It's whatever our Buddha nature, we have it right now. That is the view. The essential view of Buddhism is that the beginning, our nature, we don't start with something that's broken, that is sinful, that needs to be mended, that needs to be cleaned, that needs to be this, that needs to be that. No, the view states very, very clearly that we start with Buddhahood, with our true nature is Buddha nature, but it's in its seedling form. And so the path is undertaken in order for Buddhahood to blossom. But if we are an apple seed, and that is our nature, we can only become an apple tree, and that's what Buddhahood is. So the path and the meditation and the means that we employ toward the fruition of Buddhahood is watering that plant, creating the proper circumstances, giving it the sun, giving it the care. That's what the path is. So in Buddhism, meditation is a much, much more specific type of activity informed by a very specific view in regard to what we're doing and in regard to the nature of the mind. So start with this very kind of a positive attitude and know that the nature of the mind, that open, vast spaciousness, which allows for all the transitions of comings and goings, for the happy moments and the I don't care neutral moments, and elated moments and sad moments and generous moments and horrendous moments. It is the space which allows for all of these kinds of constructs to exist. But our mind, our nature of the mind is more like the sky within which all these little clouds can take place. And also when you are doing meditation, you are engaged in meditation and observing your mind, which can be done on the cushion, but from the cushion, we should always take it into the world. We should be observing these little movements of clouds, the sad clouds, the happy clouds, the I need this now clouds, I'm ready to give and sacrifice those clouds. Watch the wind, which is our energy. That is what connects all these clouds together, like the string on the mala connects all the little beads together. That wind, our energy, is what interconnects and moves these things in the space of the sky. The sky, the openness that in Buddhism is referred to as emptiness, which is kind of an unfortunate word because it's really about the absolute openness. and the energy that can engage in experience, can place attention, openness, and that energy, that is the nature of our mind. That energy is what is called clarity. So emptiness and clarity are a union, and that is how the nature of the mind is often referred to. And we have to experience that, not just talk about it, because by the time we said, oh, I got it, it's emptiness and cognizance, or, you know, emptiness and the clarity aspect, which is the understanding portion of our mind, of our awareness. If we have another concept, we have nothing. We have another construct, but we have no experience. And another construct cannot move us, cannot change us, cannot transform us. So it's about watching the spaciousness, experiencing the spaciousness, connecting to the spaciousness, and not storing another yes, but I know thing into, you know, into our conglomerate of all of the constructs. As Michael was saying in the review of meditation, thoughts, experiences arise and vanish. Waves of experience never ceases. They're like tiny little moments when the mind is open, and then we place our attention, experience arises and vanishes, experience arises and vanishes, and there's energy of cognizance that brings it all together. Thoughts, feelings, sensations, value, judgments, concepts, which we use selectively to construct our reality, our identity, always arise of themselves and vanish on their own. The moment we place our attention on something, we light up that little piece of the sky, something arises for us, we go into it with thoughts, sensations, feelings, value, judgments, conceptualize, experience arises for us. But if we relax that structure, that construct, the label, the value judgment, that person, I can't stand that person, the memories, I met that person last time and he did this and this. If we relax the construct, even if we place our attention for a moment into something else. So if in front of us there is this hateful person and we're so engaged and inflamed by the afflictive emotions which we're experiencing in conjunction with meeting this person, but if somebody comes over and says, oh, your car was scratched, suddenly the shift of the mind, and you drop this whole construct, and we're now on to the next construct. So in meditation, what we do is we relax all these filters of judgment values, of emotions, of the things that move us to identify a particular object and engage with it in a certain way. And remember, that engagement doesn't just happen. It's a very selective process. It's very, very quick. It's difficult to notice. But in that process of identifying ourselves in reality and how we comport to a certain object, all these things have already happened. Like, we know the name of this thing. We know how we feel about it. We know that we like it or we dislike it. We've placed so many different filters and judgments upon it. So reality is really not something that just happens to us. We are so deeply engaged in creating it. And in meditation, we get to observe it. We get to see what triggers us, our responses. We get to see, do we even experience this thing, or are we just like regurgitating through triggers the same old, and we're not even seeing the thing anymore. All we have is like the label, the concept, the feeling, the judgment, etc., you know? And in meditation, we relax all of that. And we get to know that these things come and go. In meditation is also when we're observing a mind, we're observing things come and go. We can also experience the skillful means, the methods. Methods are, we spoke about 6 paramitas. For example, patience is a method. It's not some vague thing. So if for a moment you're sitting in your meditation and someone or something that elicits negative emotions inside you, afflictions arise, but you have the skillful means, you can sit and wait. You have patience. You will get through your patience. You will get to see how that thought just diminishes and it's gone. And so that process of looking at our sky-like nature and seeing things come and go, not believing any longer in the solidity of these things like they happen to me, but really identifying and knowing, oh, that whole conglomerate, that conceptual structure, that's my feeling, that's my value judgment, that's how I perceive it. There's so very little of experience, direct experience of that thing. Most of that kind of layering is all me. It all comes from my side. Why I call that guy my enemy, why I don't like him, why I consider him a difficult person, etc., etc. First of all, we should always know that we never know anything in totality. We meet something for a moment, and right in that encounter, we are affected by a million other things that are going inside our mind continuum, and we create a conglomerate based on that one little slice, one little moment of imposing our internal structure onto that experience. All beings and all things are very multifaceted. We're very multifaceted. We go through a million identities during a single day. I have one identity when I get on the subway. I have another identity when I walk into the office and I interact with my coworkers, another identity when I interact with my boss. I'm different than when I'm talking to people in the coffee room. Then I get back on the subway and I have my subway identity where I have to, the commuter identity, whether you're driving in the car or you're in public transportation. Then you put on another identity when you get home, when you're interacting with your loved ones, when you're interacting with your kids. So within just a 12-hour cycle, or you have a different identity when you're lying down and relaxing and reading a book and are about ready to go to sleep, or doing a meditation session. We fluctuate through these countless identities very, very seamlessly. And that wind, that cognizance that moves from one idea seamlessly to the next, within the spaciousness, the openness, which allows for one construct to be replaced by another construct, is really, that is the nature of our mind. It's very important to look when we're meditating and just being aware all the time, desolidifying all these scenarios, watching how the scenarios arise is like watching a play on the stage. So if we are watching creation of one identity on the stage of our spaciousness, of our mind, we can't put up another play until we strike the set and we're ready for the next play. And then we can become a father, or we can become a lover, or we can become just a person trying to relax and go to sleep. So each time the mind, the spaciousness, what we call the empty aspect, the spaciousness, the empty stage, is what allows for a new set to come on, a new play to come on, and the placing attention onto something, as I need this, I have to do this. Life doesn't stop. We wake up even when things become less dense, and we know about the stage and on which all these experiences are happening, one after another, one after another, one after another. And all this is linked by our memory, just by our mind. There's nothing solid there. Who I am as a subway goer, as a person who's working in the office, who's being maybe somewhat servile or afraid of the boss, coming home, seamlessly becoming a parent, seamlessly becoming a partner, a lover, somebody who wants to relax, wants to be left alone, etc. All these identity transformations, all these different structural components can only happen because there's space for them to happen. And so as we watch the mind and we start to desolidify, that process is called clarity. We begin to be aware that it is us who is creating those identities. Yes, we do it in response to meeting things in the world, but they're selective choices because we have so many different types of identities, like more than we have clothes in our closet. We can pick this person and we can pick this person. We can pick this reaction, we can pick this reaction. It's not as spontaneous as we think that it is. It doesn't just happen to us. We select, we Yes, we do it out of our programming, but we select. In fact, here right now, in this very instance, we're trying to create an identity that is more fluid, more open, more spacious, more aware. And ultimately, we're doing that so that we can transform my ego identity and ego fixation to becoming a compassionate person, to be, not to use a stupid value judgment, but a better person. We are trying to tend toward Buddhahood so we can liberate all sentient beings and ourselves, because that's the intention with which any and all Buddhist practices begin. Even when we go to the toilet, we should aspire to do things like this. When we take a meal, we should aspire to do that. Whatever we do, any moment in time can become an opportunity for compassion and clarity. It has to be clarity first. If we understand that we have choices, we can turn this difficult situation into something completely different. First, we need to see it. So first, that difficult situation could be first become a moment of clarity, and then from the moment of clarity, it can become a moment of liberation and compassion. So, like, I stole this from my friend. She did a beautiful film recording last days of a terminally ill, very, very beautiful young person with 3 young children. And her son, who was going through all these struggles, seeing his mother diminish and vanish little by little, in her last days. He had a bottle of water like this with sparkles. And she said to him, well, this is all your fears and emotions, and all you do is let them settle. And then that clear part is the love. And so, and you're remembering that. So this is the ordinary state, the crazy state, our habitual state. And each one of these sparkles is a construct, big lens that goes in front of reality like this. But in meditation, and then ultimately like a state of awareness that we bring into everything, we let all this settle. And when we let these things settle, many things transpire. 1, we can see, and 2, we can choose, we can be liberated. So we don't have to act on negative emotions. We don't have to act out of fear, and we don't have to act out of ignorance. And so this is, I just wanted to touch upon that all these things that I just spoke to regard the view in Buddhism. Remember your Buddha nature. Remember that it is stainless, that, it's like a mirror. A little tiny mirror can see gigantic mountains. It could see anything and not judge. It could see horrible things, beautiful things, vast things, tiny things. But the mirror itself does not get stained, it does not judge. And that is the nature of our mind.
Thank you very much. Like I said, today we're stopping at 11, but we will go into questions now. We probably won't get to all of them. What is actually happening when you have involuntary spasms during meditation? It spooks me a bit.
Involuntary, by that, what you most likely mean, things arise because thoughts arise of themselves. Sometimes we want to remember certain things. We go to the store and we forget why we went there and what we need to buy. Thoughts arise of themselves, but remember, they also vanish of themselves. What's spooky is the open space when we're not habituated, when we're not used to that big space of awareness. It's a little bit daunting because in the beginning, like I watched the teaching recently, and this wonderful meditator, a Dzogchen teacher, said, we're like a firefly in the universe, in the black vastness of the universe, because the firefly only sheds the light where it places its attention. So you can only see like a tiny little white corner or a lit up corner of the universe, whereas all this big spaciousness really freaks us out. But the more we illuminate and go toward that vastness of the sky, the more we identify it as our very nature and not the things that we illuminate because we're seeking a certain purpose. So
an involuntary spasm during meditation would be is a movement of energy, is what you're saying.
It's exactly it. It's exactly it. There will be little, just like in our digestive system, there will be little after things, little aftershocks after we eat something. Maybe it's too spicy, maybe it's too this. By involuntary, I imagine there's also a psychological moment of being a little bit afraid of the vastness of the nature of mind. But, once you can make friends with your mind, and this is what meditation is, observing one's mind, knowing one's nature of mind, you'll become more gradually comfortable, because that mind has never left. That mind has always been with you endlessly, and that mind has never arisen and has never ceased. It's just that you haven't been aware of it. And if you're talking about physical involuntary spasms, not a big deal. Once you get to the physicality of taking your natural seat, of placing your attention, your breath, and everything with a very pointed intention of seeing, all that will diminish. The important thing is to watch fear. Remember, fear will arise and it will drop. So have patience, use skillful means, and just wait and look.
How do you keep yourself from falling asleep during meditation? Well, I'm assuming you're in the right posture, the one that we went over, because if your back is real straight, I mean, that's not an easy position to fall asleep in. But when you feel yourself drowsy, one little trick that's really good is to raise the angle of your gaze. So you're feeling drowsy, your gaze is at this level, raise it just by raising your head a little bit, and your eyes, or both, or either or. So the angle of your gaze is higher, and that can kind of wake us up a little bit. But I mean, if you're really in that posture and your back is straight and you're aligned, that's not an easy position to fall asleep in. So I'm not sure what posture you're using, but
Also,
that's one thing.
exhale the stale breath. If you feel very groggy, very sluggish, very tired, just forcefully exhale stale breath and connect again to mind looking at mind, because we're not spacing out when we're meditating. We're not just feeling like relaxed, like we're sitting in front of a TV. Mind watching mind. We're watching events and movement, the clouds and what links them together in the big spaciousness of our awareness.
Do you incorporate yoga in your practice? No, but I can't really speak to that because I don't really do yoga. Here's a great question. How do we feel compassion when people do bad things and make us angry? Why should we feel compassion for people who act inconsiderately?
Compassion is not an emotional state. Compassion is not a state of judging someone as good or bad. Compassion is something that comes from us. Compassion relates to us having wisdom. When we see people doing wrong things, there are many ways of feeling compassion for them. For one, and the most simple thing is when people do transgressions, they are the ones who will be paying a huge penalty, because karma is a fallout, and different karmic events, because karma is just action. It means, the word karma means action. So if we spill a bucket of water, we just need a mop and that's it. 10, 15 minutes, we can clean it up. If we act on a very, very difficult, afflictive emotion and we explode a bomb, then for centuries, lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes, we have to mop up that kind of a spill. So knowing that, that's number one. You're saying out of ignorance that person is creating tremendous karma. They're going to have to mop up that karma for many, many lifetimes. And also all the creatures that suffer from that fallout will also kind of hang on them and have this karmic relationship to them, that weight, that burden. Second of all, you look to the state of mind and you realize that only out of a state of ignorance do people actually are people capable of doing negative actions. There is no negative action done out of clarity of mind. So those are the two ways very, very easily that we can look upon someone who's committing negative deeds and we can have compassion to them instantaneously, because it has nothing to do with us saying he's good, he's bad. No, it's that we know that that action is being taken, is being caused from the cause of ignorance, and also the fallout sometimes could be, the repercussions can be vast and last through lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes, and a lot of times will affect a huge circle around that person. It's like a bomb crater. It's horrendous.
And you can't, do not confuse what we're saying with being a doormat or some kind of, masochist who, endures abuse. If someone's doing wrong action and you're watching it happen, or it's being inflicted on you, you are in a position maybe to teach that person a lesson. You may be in a position to help someone who's being victimized. You may be in a position to speak out about injustice and protest against injustice and be an activist against injustice if you're so inspired. It does not mean it's not the same thing as like turn the other cheek or that kind of thing, or just allowing things. Like you're on the subway and somebody's abusing someone else and you're like, well, I have compassion for that person because they're creating a lot of negative karma. No, you may have to say, hey, stop it. You may actually have to get in between people just because you're there. We must not confuse that. I've said that 100 times and I'll probably say it 100 more times.
Because any time that we can stop or put an end to negative action, we do it out of compassion. That's exactly the point.
Due to my anxiety disorders, I find myself often as an impatient person. In the new year, I want to work on creating more space in impatient situations. First of all, and I'm assuming I don't want to assume anything, but if you have been diagnosed with certain psychological disorders, anxiety disorders, we strongly recommend you have professional help. In that arena. Therapy, it can mean medication. So that aside, if I'm assuming that's already part of your treatment or part of your life, but I think it's good to look at patience rather than just grinning and bearing it and this thing of forbearance. Having patience in situations is a tremendous opportunity to practice. And more than that, as Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche said, patience is an obligation. If you consider yourself a practitioner, at least of Buddhism, patience is your obligation as a Buddhist. You're online at the coffee and the woman in front of you is taking really long to make her order or to pay, and she's changing her mind, and you're late and you have to go, and you can easily get angry at that person, angry at the person making the coffee because they're not hurrying it up, and you're lost in this story of how this person's messing up your day. That's a fantastic opportunity to practice becoming aware. First, you have to have the awareness that your mind is engaged in that impatience and that you want to work with that impatience. And then with that awareness, you settle the mind and you can open up a space where it's like, this is the situation I'm in. It's going to take maybe 30 seconds or a minute more than it should, but I'm going to use that to have presence of mind. I'm going to use that to breathe, rather getting lost and making about me, and how fast I have to do it. You're just being present in that moment. This person's going to take how long they take, and then you're going to get your coffee. It's about the awareness of what's happening, which is why you meditate. So you can start to cultivate some sense of awareness of what your mind is doing in situations. Because, you may be perfectly justified. You're late for a meeting. You got to get on your car is waiting outside, and this person's unreasonably counting out pennies or something, and it's driving you insane. Nonetheless, it's happening. And life will happen, and we don't have control over every situation. In fact, most of what happens we don't have control over. But we do have control over our own mind, and we can become aware and present and have patience.
Ultimately, always remember that when you act in an afflicted manner, it pollutes you internally. And I'm sure that you want to address this problem at least partially due to that. So when we have the presence of mind, we can use difficult situations for illumination. We don't have to lose time. We can practice right there on the spot, and we can really practice. Only the true real practice happens when difficult situations arise. Otherwise, it's hypothetical. But if we're practicing when difficulties arise, we're really practicing, and clarity is at its sharpest when it happens in difficult situations. So use that to your advantage.
You have to split. Maybe I'll stay for a few minutes because there's an awful lot of questions if I can.
There was one question about non-duality, if I may address it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I'll address it in the most simple way. In Buddhism, non-duality, this is a very simple version of it because it's a very big technical term. But in the simplest way, non-duality has to do with the openness, to which we refer to as emptiness, and events, the little things that happen, the bubbles that arise, the clouds in the sky. They're not two, they're not one, they're beyond one and two. They're always together because our energy, the wind, will always blow clouds in the sky because we are here in this life, and life is not going to stop. At the same time, this blowing of the clouds across the sky can only happen because of the presence of the sky. If the stage was filled with old sets, we couldn't put more into it. And you know yourself that the more full a person is, the less we're capable of experiencing anything new. So non-duality means this capacity of the mind within the spaciousness have manifestation. But again, don't think of it as one or two. Think of it as beyond one and two. It's like the warmth and the radiance of the sun. They're inseparable from the sun, or the wetness of the water, or the qualities that belong to the flame, or the solidity of the earth. Those are they're non-dual aspects that they occur together. They're one and the same. So in the simplest way, that's what non-duality is emptiness or infinite openness, and spontaneous arising and vanishing. So that is a simple way for to answer what non-duality means. It's really the nature of our mind.
I'm gonna try to get a few more questions in while Victoria splits. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
How many times a day should we meditate? There's a couple of answers to that question. If you're new, start with short sessions. We did like 8 minutes today. You could start with 5 minutes a day. Once a day is okay. Twice, morning and night, is good. What's important is starting to make it a regular thing, starting to make it a daily thing, starting to make it part of your routine. And then even more important is starting to bring that awareness that you start to taste and cultivate in meditation into your daily life. Like when we were talking about standing online on the coffee and you're feeling impatient. Tuning into that awareness of what your mind is doing is what we're doing in meditation. You see the connection there. What is the Buddhist stance on casual sex? I'm a few months out of a relationship, not ready to be involved seriously. In terms of sex in Buddhism, you don't want to be engaged in any sexual act that causes suffering, basically. There's no stance on casual sex as opposed to sex in a married, premarital or that kind of thing. Anything that's abusive, any kind of sexual act that can cause harm, you know what I mean? So like if you're in cheating, and betraying someone, and that can cause harm, the person obviously finds out, or you're doing something that's something that's negative, that's degrading in some way, that's going to cause kind of negative psychological repercussions, something that's dangerous in terms of, safe sex and not practicing, being careful and mindful of those things. So, as long as you're not, it's consensual and, not abusive or not, you're not violating someone who's underage or that kind of thing, uh, that's okay. And you have to also remember, if you're not violating laws, obviously, or not, transgressing those kind of things, then it's okay if it's not abusive. You have to also remember that Buddhism is not really that much interested in creating social structures. Like there's no Buddhist wedding kind of thing, ceremony. Buddhism is much more about your own nature of mind, you dealing with your own mind, you dealing with your own obscurations and negative emotions and cultivating your own sense of awareness. It's not like a religion that tells you you have to do this. Buddha says do this, Buddha says don't do that. Of course, when Buddha taught, and taught the Eightfold Path, he's going to talk about things that are going to create negative karma, things that are going to create negative states of mind, and we know what those things are for the most part, right? Stealing and killing and lying and things like that are negative actions basically that cause suffering. And the same with the sexual art. So it's not like that. More morality is in the forefront of Buddhism, like a lot of other religions, to be honest. And on a personal level, I don't really necessarily see Buddhism as a religion because Buddha is not a god, is not worshipped as a god or venerated as such. Buddha is someone who taught about the mind, basically, and the way things are and our relationship to that. So to me, that's more like a science in a way, or, even beyond a philosophy. Okay. Oh, eyes open versus eyes closed. Um, Eyes open are good because we're kind of training for life. Again, going back to that example of being online in the coffee shop, you're not sitting in the, standing online in the coffee shop watching this stuff happen with your eyes closed. So you're bringing that awareness into life is much easier when you practice and cultivate that awareness with your eyes open. So is our Buddha nature like a stable background in which the movements of our daily lives play out? Yes. In a way, yes. That's a really good way to put it. It's your baseline. But our mental uh, constructs and our mental patterns and our habituated tendencies, through in a Buddhist point of view, things we've cultivated for many lifetimes, because our consciousness has never been created, won't be, is not destroyed. The consciousness is something that's always been, and kind of various physical forms have kind of constructed itself around consciousness in a chain of different formations. And this one is human, and this one is a guy who lives, in New York in 2023 and is 56 years old at the moment. But that clarity, that Buddha nature, that clarity and limitless sky-like nature of mind and of being has always been. So it's a matter of kind of cutting through all these habituated tendencies and emotional tendencies and constructs and concepts and all those things, and really starting to get in touch with the fact that that exists. Is making a shrine necessary to achieve a high level of meditation? No, not at all. Making a shrine is good because it can offer inspiration and get you maybe in, on the cushion more, and it can be something that focuses you. So, when you sit in this place, you're inspired by, if it's images of the masters or the Buddhas, you're inspired by these beings, and it enriches your practice, but it is not necessary to achieve a high level of meditation. And I'm not sure what you mean by high level of meditation. Be careful with that. There's no high level, low level. There's just the tasting the mind, that true nature of mind, experiencing it even for a moment. How long have you been meditating? Since 2007. Can you recommend any reading on Buddhism? On the website, we have a YouTube channel, Meditation with Michael Imperioli, and Solidago Productions. There's a list of teachers, and look up their books. They have lots of books. Can I force Buddhism on my children? I wouldn't force Buddhism on anyone. You can certainly expose it to them if it's something that you're doing, like in your house, have books around, or if you're listening to a teaching or watching a teaching on YouTube and they're there and see it, sure. I mean, you can, when they're young and they need to be with you all the time, you can certainly bring them to teachings, but I wouldn't force, I really wouldn't force Buddhism on anybody. Buddhism is unique because what makes you a Buddhist? As I meet people sometimes, and we'll talk about Buddhism or things related to Buddhism, and I say, "Are you a Buddhist?" And like, well, kind of, or I kind of think of myself as, or maybe I don't use the word, but I think you're either a Buddhist or you're not. What makes you a Buddhist is that you have taken refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, the three jewels. The Buddha was the Buddha himself. It's also, your own Buddha nature, basically, ultimately. The Dharma, the teachings, and the Sangha is your congregation of fellow Buddhists and teachers, practitioners. And you actually take refuge vows. You take vows that until samsara is empty, samsara is worldly existence, that we're beings involved in that obscured mind, until samsara is emptied, meaning when all beings are enlightened, I will take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And you say that in the presence of your teacher. It's actually a formal kind of thing. But I wouldn't force it on anybody. Okay, we are going to dedicate the merit. So when you do a practice, there's positive karmic seeds, say, that we're planting, which is a good thing, which generates merit, say. So merit, that kind of positive karmic seeds, that you're generating by making aspirations for the benefit of all beings, like we did at the beginning of class, and working with our minds to be a benefit to others. That kind of creates like a positive, say, charge of energy, if you will. And we're going to dedicate that for the benefit of all beings. We're not just doing it for us. It's like we're taking a glass of water, of really pure water, and we're going to pour that glass into the ocean. And now that pure water has become the ocean. So we're going to dedicate the merit generated by today's class for the benefit of all beings by saying this dedication prayer. By this merit may all beings attain the state of enlightenment and conquer the enemies of faults and delusions. May they be liberated from this ocean of samsara and its pounding waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. We will see you next week. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Nick Solidio, who's our producer, without whom we would not be able to do this class. See you next week.